5, 7 years ago when this first came up after the incident down in Virginia, and it became a national cry to remove monuments around the nation. It came to us, of course, here because of the Talbot Boys statue on the courthouse green. And that council looked to me. I was council president at the time, and they asked me to draft a statement. And I did so after very much research. I mean, I researched the statute in detail. And not only that, being that I'm not a native Talbot Countyan, I came here, my wife and I, nearly 20 years ago. I wanted to talk to the people who were born and raised here, who lived here during the civil rights struggle, who lived here during segregation. And so I went to persons who were my senior, born and raised here at Talbot County, and persons who were, quite frankly, African American, because I needed to know from them. And I asked them point blank, tell me, how does this make you feel? How does it, what does it say about you? What does it say about this community? And by and large, the sentiment was, I don't think about the statue. It doesn't really move me in that way. When I go to the courthouse, I go in there and take care of my business, and I leave out and don't look up or don't look over towards the statue. Does it cause dread? Is it a dark cloud hanging over the corner of the courthouse? Now, those millennials now may have a different feel, but I needed to talk to people who actually lived it, who actually felt it. And after those conversations, after doing my research and after some reflection and talking with members of that council, we came to the decision to leave it up. And we all felt comfortable with our decision. And as you said before, I think the sentiment, if you had taken a poll of Talbot County 7 years ago, I think you would have found the sentiment to leave it up. And I was told, quite frankly, from fishermen and farmers and merchants, black, white, and in between, that they were okay with the decision the council made. Fast forward 7 years today, fast forward the image of George Floyd in the street, and with the officer's knee on his neck, and the officer's knee on his back, and the officer's knee on the back of his leg, and being handcuffed, and the other officer standing idly by as if he was waiting on a bus, just looking up and down the street, just no sense of compassion, humanity at all being on display. That moves me beyond words. And we have seen a lot of, through this nation, a lot of ugliness. We have seen a lot of ugliness in this nation. For whatever reason, that just struck a chord with me. We've seen police dogs being released on people. We've seen people being hit with water hose. We've seen pictures of people being hung and mutilated bodies. But this was live. This was you saw it, you heard it, and it was very disturbing, psychologically, spiritually, and it's quite physically disturbing to watch. And it made me now start to think, was the decision we made 7 years ago the right decision? And I did some contemplating, some prayer, and I felt that now was the time that the council made a reversal of his decision 7 years ago and take the Talbot Boys statue down off the base. Compromise and compromising, yes. When I did my research and I found out that persons who participated in the Civil War are considered veterans by the U.S. Congress. Whether you fall on the Confederate side or on the Union side, they are all considered veterans by the U.S. Congress. So, and of course, many of those names, as you said earlier before we started taping, were just boys who went off to battle. Whatever their reason, and this is the thing I don't get drawn into, whether their reason that they went off to battle was to preserve a way of life, or because their neighbor down the street was going to fight and they went with them, or they felt a duty to go off, or whether they believed in slavery. We don't know. We can't go into a time machine and go back and query or interview each one of those boys and ask them why did they go off to fight? What was their reason to go off to fight? We don't know. What we do know is that they were Talbot County citizens. They participated in an armed conflict, and they're dead. And the U.S. Congress has declared that they are veterans of war. I'm asking the council to take on a number of initiatives. The first is to ask the county manager to produce to this council within 30 days a diversity report card, if you would, that covers the last 2 fiscal years of this council. And that diversity report card would cover all diversity training seminars or workshops that county staff have been engaged in. Because the county manager, his duties and responsibilities are to run the county administratively, councils sometimes are not aware of those trainings that take place. So we're asking for a report that would tell us what trainings have taken place over the last 2 fiscal years, what were the outcomes of their training, what, if any, actionable items were now put in place because of that training, and what future trainings are being set up around diversity. I've had a long discussion with Andy Hollis, our county manager, about that. He has no problem with it, and I think it's something that will demonstrate what steps have already been taken by the administration here. Secondly, I'm asking the council also to create a diversity statement. That statement will be placed, I'm hoping to be placed in the employee handbook, and that statement will just let people know that this is a county that we welcome diverse persons of backgrounds and cultures and races. We welcome diverse thoughts when it comes to how council should be or county government should be operating. And we need to say that. Sometimes you need to say it. You always, you hear the wife or the husband say, well, I love you. Well, sometimes I need to hear you say, I love you. And sometimes you need to say, if you truly believe in diversity, then say it. Put it on paper. Make sure that every county employee has read it and they sign that they've read it and they understand what it is and what it means, and put it in their employee folder. I'm also asking council to take a bold step and support the 2020 Policing and Justice Act that has been offered by the U.S. Congress. And I think that if you go back and you read through that act and those bullet items or actionable items that this act covers, it covers a lot of things we talked about before when you're having to have a national database that you can look for individuals who should not be wearing the uniform because they harbor feelings that are not of a diverse nature. They harbor feelings that will prejudice the way they go about doing the job. Those persons you do not want in uniform. And if we can have a national database through Homeland Security on a no-fly list, then we can have a national database for law enforcement. Another thing I'm asking the council to consider is and this is quite surprising, is to take the council from a unlimited term of office to a term limit office. And I'm doing that, again, we talk about diversity, to give an opportunity for persons or more on a regular basis to come onto the council. Some elected subdivisions already have term limits. TRAP already has a term limit. So term limits are not unusual. There are county governments that have term limits. I think Prince George's County also has term limits. So it's not unusual to have a term limit on your government. Mayor has a term limit. The governor has a term limit. The president has a term limit. There's been a call for decades for Congress to have a term limit. So, but I believe that if you had a 2-term limit on the county government, those 8 years, this is my 13th year on the council. I believe that would give you enough time to serve and to get involved. I mean, you never dispense of hope. Be a realist and look at things as they are. We certainly have come a long way as a nation, but we can be better. Again, one of the first steps in doing that is to hold yourself accountable as a community, as a government, as a nation. You must hold yourself accountable for the things you've fallen short on. Again, going from a criminal justice attitude to a social justice attitude when it comes to policing is a big shift. We're dealing with 2 epidemics right now, the opioid epidemic that hit us back in 2017, 2016, that's still out there. People think that that's going away. It hasn't gone away. The opioid epidemic is still out there. It has now been moved to maybe page 3, but it's still there. The coronavirus pandemic hit us like a ton of bricks, and we're dealing with that as a public health crisis. In my opinion, you have to look at policing when it comes to brutality and policing when it comes to aggressive nature of some policing agencies as a national health crisis, and how you can do better, how you can spend your dollars to do better. Do we need policing departments with tanks and bazookas and missiles? I would say not. I would say not. So I think we have to really look at across the board at how to do policing better. I think we can. I think we owe it to ourselves. We owe it to our children to do it better. I think that there are people in place in government who want to do it better, and we have to just keep on striving. That's where the hope part comes in. We just have to keep on striving to be better. There's a little saying that Kelly Griffith in the school system has: good, better, best. Never let it rest till your good is your better and your better is your best. You know, I can't believe I remembered that, but that's my philosophy. You know, let's move from good to better, you know, and from better to best. Let's keep on striving as we go down this road, and we can do it. We have the willingness and the conviction and the drive to do it, we can. But it has to start with looking in the mirror and being accountable. And if you're harboring feelings of discrimination, or if you're harboring feelings of just of hatred and bigotry, then you need to do a self-check and find out, hey, why am I feeling this way? What is it that is so ingrained in me that if NASCAR can ban the Confederate flag, that should say it all.